Okay, now, oh yeah, all right. Okay, okay, that was the introduction. I got lost a little bit. I wasn't prepared for that.
This was not our
Yeah,
presentation.
yeah. Okay, good. Hi, everyone. How are you? Very good, very good. So we're gonna divide the talk in like 2 or 3 sessions, so to make it a little bit more entertaining for you. And so we first tell you who we are, and then Robertina will have an introduction about her work. Then I will do an introduction about my work, and then we'll tell you finally about the project that we are doing together.
So, my name is Robertina Šebjanič. I'm really happy to be here again at KIK. It's my third KIK, and I think Marcus also.
Yeah?
We will speak today about the work which is called Fossilized Futures, and as was mentioned, it's about changing landscapes and rethinking how the different pasts are influencing different futures.
So yeah, my name is Marco Barotti. I'm a multimedia artist, and I work at the intersection of art, science, and technology. And after many years of meeting Robertina in different venues, we're finally celebrating this collaboration with all of you today. So I leave the word to Robertina, and then I'll be back in a couple of minutes. See you later.
So before we started to collaborate with Marco on the work, we both share similar interests, and this is like one of them is also like what is happening with the watery bodies. In this talk now, I will focus mostly on my ocean research, even though that I do also lots of freshwater things. I like to say that my work is powered by being on the different ships to experience the different environments and to be able to immerse myself into them. I like to say that I like to give the voice to the others, but not speaking for them. I think that's one of very important points which I always like to make sure. But give them the space that we can all attune to their rhythms, to their signals, to their beings. The sound which you hear, please put it up. Just short interruption of my talk, but is interrupting constantly on daily basis. Lots of different creatures, fish, whales, when they are like trying to communicate, trying to be together in the oceans, because our presence is mostly to industrial representation. And I like to also write articles about this. I framed also conceptually the concept aquatocene, where I try to kind of refer to this kind of presence of us humans in these kind of watery environments. Jellyfish, they have been one of the first organisms I kind of dived into this kind of otherness, I would say. It's a work which I was also showing first time when I was presenting here at KIK. And the work speaks about this, how the different the body, the representation, and their life is. It's the resilience of the species on one hand, but then the species which is like in the tanks on exhibition spaces, it changes. As mentioned before, my main focus and my big love is to be at the ocean. So being on one of these research vessels, which you see here is a Celtic Explorer, it was like in Northern Atlantic. At the same time, you also see the representation of the work, how it was done then later on in the gallery space. I really wanted to bring this kind of vastness of like the horizontalness being at the water, the views which you have, and the just like understanding of the otherness. In the work there, I spoke about the basking sharks, which they are one of the biggest sharks, and they have been constantly around us, but they are very gracious, beautiful creatures floating around us, and there is still sound coming up. Can it be louder?
Can be viewed as holding memory from the short term to the long term, individualized and collective. The ocean of today is filled with
So with the Celtic explorer work, I really wanted to speak about this love, this oceanic kind of representation and baseness. But as the humans, we like to use the ocean still for industrialization, and many times is used as big blue hole where we just dump our things and we like to forget about them. And one of my latest projects speaks about this complexity of like what happens when the geopolitical conflicts, war, or different attacks, which they are happening also lately a lot, happening, and what is happening with the leftovers of that in the ocean floor. I was on the Baltic Sea as an artist in residence on Tara, it's a research vessel, and into the Baltic Sea after the Second World War, there was like huge dumping of the munition, warfare, and all this is now kind of like leaking into environment. The chemical imprint and presence of us is really out there. And the work then continued also with the second research, which was done at Adriatic Sea. This is the video which you see now. And with these two kind of video essays, which I'm placing them in different kind of constellation and constructions, I like to speak on one hand about our industrial presence of constructing different borders, levels, and thinking about that. And at the same time also speaking in the video essay about the areas. This is one of very interesting spaces where I had like special entry point because it's a training ground for the police forces of Croatia. So they train how to swim around the bombs, how to demolish them, how to release them from the waters, and how they can kind of like clean the waters of this kind of presence. The point of the project is like in this moment mostly to raise the awareness that there is like, and this is not the only point, no? It's not only Baltic Sea, there is so many different ocean seas and also rivers full of this kind of leftovers from us that is quite compelling to see. With divers, when we went into the waters, this is like one moment when they have been removing one of the leftovers of all this kind of old military mine from German army, and you see when they are taking it up, everything what goes out is mostly TNT and this kind of stuff. And now it's coming again, the sound.
Mr. Giacomo. 1. The Allies, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, France, and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, USSR, inherited chemical munitions. The post-World War II practice of sea-dumping munitions has left a legacy of environmental and safety concerns.
Female members, we do a lot of design research, self-initiated.
The German army kept the
So with all this murmur which you hear is like one of the sonic works of mine, which is actually combining mostly human voices. Because in general, I like to work with the voice of others, like with the voice of the fish or the environment. But here, I organized the symposium. We agreed with the colleagues at the symposium that they will be able to, that I would like to use their voices. And I think because the topics of like military waste in the oceans is very complex, is connected with very many different geopolitical situations. I want to say that there is like not only one solution and there is many voices which they are thinking about it, but we are still finding the ways into that. So this is kind of like short presentation of what is like my focus from before, what I'm doing now. And I would kind of like invite Marco. Oh, sorry. Marco to join me on stage.
Yep.
Where are you?
Hi, everyone.
I think your video is just starting to roll.
Okay.
Thank you, but then we continue together.
All right. So I would like to start my part of the presentation today by listening to something very special together. This is the sound of a healthy reef, alive with crackles, pops, clicks, and low-frequency hums made by fish, shrimp, and other marine organisms. These sounds are not just beautiful and cosmic, they are vital. Young corals and fish larvae, they use sound to navigate and to locate suitable habitats to settle and grow. So in other words, if a reef is alive with sound, it's most likely to stay alive. But when reefs degrade, they grow silent. I have a background in music, and sound has always been the core of my work. For me, it's not just a medium. It's a way of sensing, of connecting and understanding. Through sound, I try to open a space where data becomes experience, and where listening becomes a form of awareness, engagement, and repair. I create interventions in urban and natural environments. They are data-driven, kinetic sound sculptures that resemble animals and plants and deal with environmental and social issues. In every work, I try to simulate the biology and the functionality of specific species in nature through technology. I collaborate closely with scientists, and I make use of environmental data sonification to bring critical topics to the audience in a more tangible, sensitive, and poetic way. And today I would like to share with you my new work. Coral Sonic Resilience is an interdisciplinary art and science collaboration rooted on acoustic ecology. It explores how the soundscapes of healthy reefs can support the recovery of damaged ones. The work builds on the research of Professor Timothy Lamont from Lancaster University. In the Great Barrier Reef, Professor Lamont applied a technique called acoustic enrichment. He recorded the soundscapes of healthy reefs in multiple locations, and then he played those sounds back into degraded colonies using underwater loudspeakers. Over 40 days, his research proved that fish and other marine organisms came back to the degraded colonies because of sound. So I got fascinated with the concept of acoustic enrichment and by the idea that sound can actually heal an ecosystem. Well, more than fascinated, I would say I got obsessed with it, actually. And I tell you why. In my previous work about corals, I developed what I called techno-shamans. Techno-shamans are algorithms trained on shamanistic music from South America, South Korea, and Japan. The aim of the artwork was to create speculative healing rituals for corals using bleaching data sets. So it was an artistic exploration to heal the reefs through sound. So when I learned that scientists were actually doing in real life what my speculative artwork was trying to do metaphorically, a new path opened up. I started diving into acoustic ecology, asking myself, how can sound and art become an act of repair, contributing directly to ecological recovery? So for the first time, I created a work not for humans, but for fish and corals. So these sculptures are 3D printed in my studio in Berlin using ceramic and calcium carbonate. Both materials are reef compatible and they reflect the natural composition of corals. The shapes and textures, they are based on 3D scans of bleached corals, and the design is thought to invite marine life to shelter, to settle, and grow. This photo is taken in Feridu Island in the Maldives, where together with the University of Padua, I went to record the soundscapes of healthy reefs and to install the sculptures in damaged areas and coral nurseries. And over several weeks, we collected different type of data, and we ran many tests to optimize both the sculptures and the solar power stations. So in February next year, we'll go back to Feridu Island to install the final sculptures, and a marine biologist on site will then collect data for several months for fish and coral growth, and a scientific paper will be then published by the end of 2026. And the work is evolving, coral sonic resilience is evolving into a body of work, right? So beside the underwater interventions, I'm developing new versions for art exhibitions, right? The journey starts at the Science Week in Berlin, and it will travel to Singapore at the Art and Science Museum, and ending up at Ocean Space for the Venice Biennale of Architecture 2027. And whether the artwork is installed underwater or in a gallery, it is driven by the same purpose: to change our perspective, to invite to new ways of listening, and to engage with and to protect the fragile ecologies we are part of. In this way, coral sonic resilience is not only exposing a crisis, but it takes part in it, it intervenes, and proposes new models of coexistence and regeneration. Thank you. Robertina, would you join me?
So Fossilized Futures, which we kind of announced, and it was our main focus for today, is like project where we have been like really thinking about what does it mean, the changing of the landscapes, and where we are today's times and what happened before. So with the work, one of the things which was also very inspiring, instead of the context of the cohesion, there was this idea of having different public debates, where team of KIC, like Charlotte, Marie, and everybody else helped us a lot to navigate, bring the local experts, present us with the fish which they are present in the Meuse and La Sambre, context of the city, and it helped us a lot to be quicker understanding the history of the city, which we both knew from the KIC, but it's something else when you start to research also its histories.
Yeah, so the public debate helped us a lot actually to understand the history of the river as well, right? And to get in touch with the biodiversity. So understanding what is living with the river, in the river, together, right? And from the public debates, we then had, let's say, more contact with like the local community. And they brought us along the river where we did our research on sound, video, and photography, until we deepen our research in the very deep past, in the real sense of the word, until we found, let's say, the very first fossil of an insect. So the very first fossil of an insect that was found intact, right? And it was found in the region, exactly in Strud, a city nearby Namur, and for that reason they call it Strudiella devonica.
Yeah, and Devonica is because it was coming from the Devonian time, where this whole region was actually a huge ocean. And for us, this kind of, as the beginning of storytelling, was interesting. As you notice, we both work a lot with sonic representations. In both works, it was first thing which was like, let's work on the sound piece, which ended up as a video installation with sonic, immersive, also with some sculptural parts. But the sound was the main idea. We started there. Like how to sonify something that is like 360 million years old to bring it into today's days. who was this Strudiella devonica, the mother of the insects, and also who was eating them. This was questions which we had around it, because in the ecosystemic relationship, there are always this kind of context.
Yeah. So we decided to create some sort of story, right? So the main idea that we had, or the main outcome that we thought it would actually fit to the story of Strudiella, was an opera, sort of an opera, a digital opera, right? So we took Strudiella as the main character, as the subject, and then we wrote a libretto, and we collaborated with the singers of the choir, of the opera choir of Namur, for this incredible piece of music that came out, at least for us. Then you will judge it yourself when you go and see it. But we have a snippet that we would like you to listen to.
So with this kind of numbering and the fossil, we wanted to enter into this kind of different pasts. And also from that, we came also to today's situations. And some of the great partners of the projects, they have been also the University of Namur, the department which is like working on conservation of salmon. Whereas the connection between salmon and Strudiella, we'll explain, no? It's like maybe it
My
was
favorite
Marco's
topic,
favorite animal in this context.
So due, of course, to the anthropogenic impact in the region, and not only, the salmons in the rivers of La Meuse and La Sambre, they almost disappeared, right? So the university created sort of a program and research to reintroduce salmons. So they grow them in the lab, and they have nurseries along the river. They are doing an incredible work. So we were able to get in touch with the team, Valerie and her team, and it was very inspiring to go, in the labs and research with them and be with them and look at the salmon growing somehow. So we became part of the community. One of the reasons why this is happening is that, of course, they build a lot of dams in the rivers, right? So the salmons, they cannot flow freely, right? One idea that they had that could have worked, or it's working partially, is to create sort of corridors in the side, so the salmon can actually, let's say, take a detour from the dams, but it's still not enough. So these people are actually doing an incredible job to make this species survive and to thrive actually in these waters. So it became sort of salmon. It became sort of an oracle in our work, and it became the symbol of the present, right? So you will see when you go at our installation that mostly the footage that is like within the video, so that is talking about the present. So the real footage is mainly about the salmons.
And something that we also have been like rethinking is like, what is the presence of humans? If you think about the ancient ocean, the river kind of it disappeared. The rivers came. They made their new basins, and these basins are of course also changing a lot. Water is not only the water. There is always with the river also there is lots of movement inside of the river beds with the different soil and geological kind of representation. So through filming and looking into different industrial zones as this nuclear power, which is quite near to Namur,
Yeah.
to rethinking this kind of geological kind of reflection. We try to bring also that into the work. And one of the things which we would like to say here, because you can see the work there, is like what happened when we have been exploring the rivers. Like Vicente is excellent, he's a captain of the boat, but he is also what we figured out when we went for him and with Marie, us and Marie, we have been with him on the boat. We realized that he is also excellent. He knows everything about its river Meuse.
He can read the landscape, actually.
Absolutely.
Just leave him within the landscape. It was incredible to take a step in his life, mainly. This person was very generous, actually, to share with us his knowledge and his life, right? He's almost retired. It was like 2 or 3 weeks from retirement when we met him. And he built a house literally on the river. And he has a boat where, actually 2 boats, one, I don't know what they call it, this one and one bigger, where we went to explore, actually was in the first photos, the river, let's say, more with the grand boat, let's say, and more intimately with the small one. So, and this guy has a small house, a sauna, and the boat, right? And it was so exciting to be with him that it was listening to nature for real, right? So what I was talking about before as well with coral and soaring resilience. So listening to the ecosystem to define its quality and also the health of it. So it was obsessed with the martin pêcheur, like this bird that's it's a fishing bird, right?
Yeah, fish.
And yeah, so and we together, we had the opportunity of this exchange. So we gave him our hydrophones, and he could listen finally, actually, underwater,
the
which he
river
never
also.
listened before, actually.
Yeah. And the second part, when also like working with different materialities, then we also wrote a libretto, a storytelling, and here just like sneak peek of.
Rehearsals and recordings.
This is actually a first time they even try it.
Yeah, the very first moment they met and sang the partiture. It was, actually this part didn't make it into the score, not yet at least, but the Italian version made it because we then use Italian, Slovenian, French, and English. And somehow for the flow of the movie, the Italian and Slovenian and French fitted more actually, but maybe the future.
That's always possible, and we have hope to go further because always you get like lots of material. Like this is one of this material which we also collected at university with the 3D scanning techniques, which is also representing today's insects, because their collection was also very inspiring to look into it and also to see what is the connection between and which kind of insect, how they change through these kind of evolutionary changes. The fossil?
Yeah, so this one was also a fossil from the collection of the university. So when we had the opportunity to deep dive into it. So at the end, there was a certain trust as well with the researchers, or maybe they paid them, I don't know. But they left us somehow the rooms and the fossils and the insect, and we could actually experiment a lot with photography, films, and 3D scans. So this is one of the fossils that we used as, let's say, a subject as well, or a part, or let's say a character within the opera. And then we use, of course, algorithms to sort of mutate the fossil and making it like more into a present living being, right? So, and this is more or less what came out. So when you will be in the space, just try to imagine that everything that you see had been part of a history, and we try to, let's say, bring it back to life and give it to the future, let's say, or to the futures.
No, that's not video.
Yeah.
So Strudiella, which we mentioned before, is kind of like appearing and disappearing in our storytelling, and it's our main oracle, or rethinking today's nature and representation. In this moment, we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
We still would like to. This is the whole one of the views of installation. More than welcome into the concert hall of Namur. And for the end, but not the end, we would really like to thank to the great team of Kik, Le Pavillon, and Track for their amazing support through this year. Instead of this kind of, because we came to the multiple residency moments. We would also like to thank especially to rivers, Meuse and Sambre, because being there, it was very inspiring. It was also very interesting to rethink what kind of relationships could happen also into the future. And of course, also other colleagues like Tanya Minarik, who is here with us. And it's, maybe you give your hand up, who is an expert for doing AI, 3D, and different exploratory animations, which you can also see at the concert hall of Namur.
Yeah, the Covision, of course, and all the others that participated, and we don't remember at the moment. So
they are here with us. That's why we do the shout-outs also written down.
And we still have like a couple of minutes. If you guys have any questions, we'll be happy to take questions, actually.
I went out to the... Yep.
Yeah. Is there any microphone that can go to the gentleman over there? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really a fascinating project with so much depth and background information. I had the chance to just see it before coming in here, so it was really elucidating to hear your talking about it. And I was struck, in a way, by the research process that you'd gone through, by both of your background. And I wish I had known more of this while seeing the exhibition. I feel like if I went now, having this knowledge, into the exhibition, I could appreciate even more. I mean, I liked it aesthetically, audiovisually, and yet there's always this question, how can you communicate all of the research that you're doing through the artwork itself, right? And that is something that I ask myself, both as artist and researcher, but I would like to also pose this question to you. What would be the ideal setting? Do you think the audience should read a catalog or a making of, or is it possible to even include the information of this talk into the artwork presentation itself?
I think we can always have multiple outcomes from some projects, no?
Yeah.
Like one of them is definitely talks like this, or papers, white papers, research papers, so on, because, you know, artists, we are also researchers, and researchers can also produce the writing. I do this quite often, and I see that it's resulting very well. Like before in my talk, I showed the on screen one paper from some Taiwan scientists. They found my paper, they reflected on it, and instead of context of art, science, technology, I think it's also very important to acknowledge each other also instead of this kind of more academic, a bit different world. And then this was one of the questions, how to represent all this different knowledge which we get. So I think that the great thing what we're experiencing these days, because it's premiering the work, is like we see that people actually do stay inside for a longer time. And this means that work has some attractions to rethink or just meditate. And I think it goes both ways well. But I would like Mark also to add something maybe.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's always like it's the big questions that each one of us is asking. Somehow I came to the conclusion that there is no solution somehow. So there is the artwork, it's what it is, right? You get the feeling for it, is what you said, Robertina.
Yeah, it's
there is some sort of attraction and emotional bond that you create or not when you enter the room, right? So if you manage to get this bond with the work, you stay. Doesn't really mean that with the all scientific background of research that there is and all the crazy things that we have been doing in the last 15 years or this year for this project, we would communicate better the message, you know. To me, it doesn't really matter in the end, you know, like it doesn't really matter. The work touches you, it touches you in a way that is exploring you and is asking you the question, right? Then if you have the chance to meet the artist or to, let's say, to dive deep into somebody else's research or brain or what came out of it, good. But if you don't, it's okay. The work lives by itself after it's been created by an artist, I believe. So we are not anymore we are just the makers. We are not anymore the ones that own the work once it's out there. So from today, the work is yours. So you have the possibility to judge it and to come up with your own idea with it.
And maybe for the last 19 seconds, if you want to join us, like there is a ad hoc organized, pop-up organized guided tour instead of the work just now at 5:15.
Yeah, something like
at
that.
the concert hall, so we are more than welcome. And thank you for great question, because this
Thank you.
how to speak about the big research and being presented.
Probably now, after this talk, you will have the full immersion into the artwork, I guess. Okay, thank you very much, everyone.
We used our 40 minutes. Thank you.
Bye-bye.